In this part that we have on our screen, this is a already machined model, and what we'd like to do right now is a dimensional analysis. So what we'll do is use our probe operation to measure the dimensions on this part. Now, what we'd first like to do is to actually measure out the outside of this particular box as shown over here. So if I were to go into my operation, you'll see that we have all different types of measuring options, and in this particular case, we're using the cycle of Boss as shown over here. We have our geometry, and in this particular case, our geometry is this box around over here, and we're going to measure the outside dimension of that area. If we take a look at our tool, you can see we have our probe tool as shown over here, with the holder as well. Now if we go into our technology field, you can see we have here our technology that we'll be using. And you can see over here also a preview of the points that will be touched as shown over here on the part itself. And just by putting my mouse in this area over here, for example, I can actually, just by rolling the middle button on my mouse, you can see that the probe itself, the contact point of the probe, moves up and down exactly to where I want to have it. We'll be measuring along the XY as shown over here. And let's take a look now at our simulation. When I use a simulation this particular time, I'll be using what we call machine simulation. Now, in the machine simulation, you can see our actual probe as it's about to touch the part itself. And then we'll actually run our simulation right now. I'll start my simulation off slow, and then as you see, it touches each edge of the part, goes from one edge to the next, then to the other edge on this side as well, and then off to this edge over here. And this has been done automatically with our probe. Next, what I'd like to measure is the actual top surface over here to see what's the difference between the actual top of the part and the surface over here. And I'm also touching these four surfaces because these four surfaces are supposed to be at the exact same height. In the operation itself, we choose the option of cycle single point Z. Again, we have our probe tool. And in our technology area, you can see all we need is the approach distance from on top. The Z level that's supposed to go to has automatically been taken in our geometry, as shown over here, directly off the top of the part itself. If I were to take again a look at the simulation, you can see that the tool goes down to each surface, touches each surface to measure them. Next, I've decided to measure the inside pocket over here. So, in the operation, I've chosen the option of cycle pocket, and my geometry is the chain that goes around that pocket itself. Again, I'll be using the probe tool as shown before, and in my technology area, again, all we have to do here is our approach distance. We have our repositioning height, our Z level, and again, all of this I can see in a preview over here, and just by rolling over here, I can make changes in the level that I want to keep this over here. Again, run simulation, you can see that it touches the edge of every single one of those sides over there until it finishes measuring the pocket itself. I'm not going to be actually measuring every single aspect of this part itself. but I'm just going to take a sample of certain areas. And the reason why I'm only doing in certain areas is because the part was actually machined with a finish tool. The exact same tool did the finish on the entire part. So if I measure in specific areas, it'll give me a great indication of the entire part itself. So let me go now into my next operation. And over here, what I'd like to do is measure the position of these holes here themselves. So if I go into the operation itself, you can see I've had these chains over here, the holes themselves that were picked to be measured. The tool, of course, the probe that we had before. And in my technology field, we have the option of saying how many points I want my tool path to touch. For example, right now I have it 4. And I'll just zoom into this area over here. You see I have 4 touch points over there. I can have it at 5, 6, whatever the amount of points I want to have in there. Let's just keep it at 4. And just as before over here, I also can pick up or down the touch points inside the hole itself. Now, I'll run my simulation now at the very end, but let me go now to the next operation. In my next operation, what I'd like to do is actually measure this surface over here. So it shows the option of angle Y to measure the angle over here, and my geometry is this edge over here. I'll go into my technology right now, and as you can see, we have again our distance. And I'll do the preview again so we can see this. And let's zoom in over here. And as you can see over here, I can move out the distance of what my approach point is. I can move start point in this particular direction, move my end point also as well, my Z level. All of this can be adjusted just by turning the middle button of my mouse. In my next operation, I'll be doing, again, a Z angle this time. This time, what I'd like to do is actually measure this surface over here, which is an angle. So again, I would choose my angle Z. My geometry, in this particular case, is this edge over here. And my tool, as mentioned before, and in my technology field, again, it's just as simple as moving the points exactly where I want to have them. I can move them approach point up and down, start point from the side to sides, as well as over here. And my side shift, I can move it even if I want more towards the middle. Now, in my next operation, I have my pocket cycle again. What I want to do over here is measure this pocket over here. My technology, again, we have my approach points as shown over here, Z level, measuring along both X and Y. I can actually have it if I want only going in X if I wanted to, but I want to have it in X and Y, and then just continue with that operation. Now, in my next operation, what I'd like to do is actually measure this particular hole over here, this pocket over there. Since it's a round pocket, I use the option of a hole. And as you can see, that's my geometry over there. The tool, again, the probe tool, my technology, again, the exact same way I did it before. And as you can see, it's really very simple going back and forth in the field itself. And we have the same for our next area where I want to measure off this corner over here. So in this particular case, we have the external arc option as shown over here. We have our geometry, which is this edge as shown over there. And in our technology field, and I'll do the preview of the part as well, you can see we can have it at 4 touch points. We can have it at 7 touch points. You can see you have as many touch points as you want over here. Also over here, just reduce it by turning the mouse wheel, and all of this adjusts automatically. In my next operation, I'd actually like to check these areas over here, this corner over here. So again, in this particular case, I'll choose the option of internal corner. My geometry is this edge over here, this entire corner over there. And if I go into my technology area, you can see we have our distance as shown over here. Let's just turn on our preview. You can see we can have our distance between the two touch points over there, as well as in the Y direction. And of course, we have our Z level as shown over here. Next, I like to actually measure these holes over here. So in this particular case, my geometry are all of those holes as shown over here. Again, I'll be using the hole cycle. And in my technology field, just as before, we have our Z level and we have our amount of touch points that we want to have on the part. Now, let's take a look at the entire simulation using the machine simulation option. As you see, the simulation goes to each end of the part exactly. Now we're doing the entire part. Right now we're first doing the outside of the part itself as we started out. Let's do this now a little faster and let us run its course. As you see, it's finishing now this side over here, and now it's doing those floor surfaces that we had before. Now it moved on to the inside box over here, and now into the holes itself, doing the first holes, second one, touching off on all 4 points inside the holes over there, the third one over here, and then the last one on this area over here. Now it's going to go over to this surface, measuring the angle in the y-axis, and now this one in the z-axis as well. Moving on to this pocket over here, and then to this circular pocket over here. Now we'll move over to this fillet as it measures this fillet over here, and then this corner as shown over here. And finally, moving into this area over here, checking all the holes as shown over here. Going from one hole to the next on all 4 points, taking the shortest path between each point. And that's how we use our probe module inside SolidCAM.